Ballad of the Iceworm Cocktail by Robert Service. To Dawson Town came Percy Brown from London on the Thames. A pane of glass was in his eye, and stockings on his stems. Upon the shoulder of his coat a leather pad he wore to rest his deadly rifle when it wasn't seeking gore. To which it must have often been, for Major Percy Brown, according to his stories, was a hunter of renown, who in the Murrumbidgee wilds had stalked the kangaroo and killed the cassowary on the plains of Timbuktu. And now the Arctic fox he meant to follow to his lair, and it was also his intent to beard the Arctic hare. Which facts concerning Major Brown I merely tell because I fain would have you know him for the Nimrod that he was. Skipper Gray and Deacon White were sitting in the shack, a-sampling at the whiskey that pertained to Sheriff Black. Said Skipper Gray, "I want to say a word about this Brown. His piker's sticking out his chest as if he bought the town." Said Sheriff Black, "He has no lack of refrigerated cheek. He calls himself a sourdough, and he's only been here a week." Said Deacon White, "Methinks you're right, and so I have a plan by which we prove tonight the mettle of the man. Just meet me where the hooch bird sings, and though our ways be rude, we'll make a proper sourdough of this Piccadilly dude." Within the Malamute saloon were gathered all the gang. The fun was fast and furious, and loud the hooch bird sang. In fact, that night's hilarity had almost reached its crown when into its storm center breezed the gallant Major Brown. And at the apparition, with its glass eye and plus fours, with 50 alcoholic throats resounded 50 roars. With shouts of stark amazement and whoops of sheer delight, they surged around the stranger, but first was Deacon White. "We welcome you," he cried aloud, "to this great white land. The Arctic Brotherhood is proud to grip you by the hand. Yea, sportsmen of the bulldog breed from trails of far away, to Yukoners this is indeed a memorable day. Our jubilation to express, vocabularies fail. Boys, hail the great Chichako!" And the boys responded, "Hail!" "And now," continued Deacon White to blushing Major Brown, "behold, assembled the elite, the cream of Dawson Town. And one ambition fills their hearts and makes their bosoms glow. They want to make you, honored sir, a bona fide sourdough. The same, some say, as one who's seen the Arctic ice go out, but most profound authorities this definition doubt. And to the genial notion of this meeting, Major Brown, a sourdough is a guy who drinks an iceworm cocktail down." "By gad," responded Major Brown, "that's ripping, don't you know? I've always felt I'd like to be a certified sourdough. And though I haven't any doubt your winter's awfully nice, Mayfair, I fear, may miss me ere the breakup of your ice. Pray, excuse my ignorance on matters such as these. A cocktail I can understand, but what's an iceworm, please?" Said Deacon White, "It is not strange that you should fail to know, since iceworms are peculiar to the mountains of blue snow. Within the polar rim it rears its solitary peak, and in the smoke of early spring, a spectacle unique. Like flame it leaps upon the sight and thrills you through and through, for though its cone is piercing white, its base is blazing blue. Yet all is clear as you draw near, for coyly peering out are hosts and hosts of tiny worms, each indigo of snout. And as no nourishment they find to keep themselves alive, they masticate each other's tails, till just the tough survive. Yet on this stern and Spartan fare, so rapidly they grow that some attain 6 inches by the melting of the snow. And when the tundra heads go green and data heads appear, they burrow down and are not seen until another year. Ah, toughish yarn, laughed Major Brown. As well you must admit. I'd like to see this little brute before I swallow it. 'Tis easy done, said Deacon White. Ho, barman, haste and bring us forth the pickled iceworms of the vintage of last spring. But sadly still was Barman Bill, and sighed as one bereft. There's been a run on cocktails, boss. There ain't an iceworm left. Yet wait. By gosh, it seems to me the sum of extra size was picked and put away to show them scientific guys. Then deeply in the drawer he sought, and there he found a jar, to which was due with proper pride he placed upon the bar. And in it, wreathed in greasy rings and rolled into a ball, a score of gray and greasy things was drowned in alcohol. Their bellies were a bilious blue, their eyes a bulbous red. Their backs were gray and gross were they, and hideous of head. And when with gusto and a fork the barman speared one out, it must have gone 4 inches from its tail tip to its snout. Cried Deacon White with deep delight, Say, isn't that a beaut? I think it is, sniffed Major Brown, a most disgusting brute. Its very sight gives me the pip. I'll bet my bally bat. You're only spoofing me, old chap. You'll never swallow that. The hell I won't, said Deacon White. Hey, Bill, that fella's fine. Fix up 4 iceworm cocktails and you just put that wop in mine. So Barman Bill got busy, and with sacerdotal air, his art's supreme achievement, he proceeded to prepare. His silver cups, like sickle moons, went waving to and fro, and 4 celestial cocktails soon were shining in a row. And in the starry depths of each, artistically piled, a fat and juicy iceworm raised its mottled mug and smiled. Then closer pressed the peering crowd. Suspended was the fun, as Skipper Gray in courteous way said, Stranger, please take one. But with a gesture of disgust, the Major shook his head. You can't bluff me. You'll never drink that ghastly thing, he said. You'll see all right, said Deacon White, and he held his cocktail high, till his iceworm seemed to wiggle and wink its wicked eye. Then Skipper Gray and Sheriff Black each lifted up a glass, while through the tense and quiet crowd a tremor seemed to pass. Drink, stranger, drink, Deacon White. Proclaim you are the best, a dowdy sourdough who has passed the iceworm cocktail test. And at these words, with all eyes fixed on gaping Major Brown, like a libation to the gods, each dashed his cocktail down. The Major gasped with horror as the trio smacked their lips. He twiddled his eyeglass with unsteady fingertips. Into his starry cocktail with a look of woe he peered, and its iceworm, to his thinking, most incontinently leered. Yet on him was 100 eyes, though no one spoke aloud, for hushed with expectation was the waiting, watching crowd. The Major's fumbling hand went forth, the gang prepared to cheer. The Major's faltering hand came back, the mob prepared to jeer. The Major gripped his gleaming glass and laid it to his lips, as desperately he took some nauseated sips. From out its coil of crapulence, the iceworm raised its head. Its muzzle was a murky blue, its eyes a ruby red. And then a roughneck bellowed forth, This stiff comes here and struts as if he'd bought the blasted North. Just let him show his guts. And with a roar, the mob proclaimed, Chichaco, Major Brown, reveal you are of sourdough stuff and drink your cocktail down. The Major took another look, quickly closed his eyes, for even as he raised the glass, he felt his gorge arise. Yet even though his sight was sealed in fancy, he could see that gray and greasy thing that reared and sneered in mockery. Yet round him rang the cloudless crowd, and how they seemed to gloat, "It must be done." He swallowed hard. The brute was at his throat. He choked. He gasped. Thank God, at last he got that horror down. Then from the crowd went up a roar, "Hooray for Sourdough Brown!" With shouts they raised him shoulder high and gave a rousing cheer. But though they praised him to the sky, the major did not hear. Amid their demonstrative glee, delight he seemed to lack. Indeed, it seemed he was trying to hold something back. A clammy sweat was on his brow, and pallid as a sheet. "I feel I must be going now," he'd plaintively repeat. Though with drinks and smokes galore they tempted him to stay, with sudden bolt he gained the door and made his getaway. And ere that night his story was the talk of Dawson town, but gone and rift of glory was the wrathful Major Brown. For that iceworm, so they told him, of such formidable size, was a stick of stained spaghetti with 2 red ink spots for eyes.